Enjoyed our conversation yesterday evening, Dr. Gooden. I got a question for you, and then momentarily one for you, Mrs. Merzinger. When it comes to rural broadband, our state has done pretty well in terms of putting its own resources into it. But so often, when anything comes from the federal government, we've received in Indiana through Reconnect 2 fundings, one for $1 million, one for $2 million. And Illinois has received several, one of which would be for $20 million. So I would like to know what the rhyme or reason is for how much a given state gets and why, in the case of 2 neighbors there'd be such a disparity between one that is literally either 10 or 20 times the size of the 2 that we got in Indiana, which would have been back in 2020.
Thank you, Senator Braun. I appreciate that question, and I look forward to learning more about that. I'm not fully aware of that issue, but certainly would work with you, your staff, to better understand and then provide you a response related to how those applications are reviewed. So again, thank you for the question, and I'll look forward to learning more about that.
And if you don't mind, I think it would be good to go through probably how that's been dispensed across the country, because just in this one case, that was brought to my attention by folks from Indiana. And Indiana is a place that generally is going to be somewhat more self-reliant. And I would hope that you're not being penalized. If you are doing that, that should have no bearing in terms of how you might participate in a federal program.
Well, thank you, Senator. I do know that these programs are highly competitive and often oversubscribed. And I know there's some very tough decisions that have to be made related to these programs. But again, I do commit to learning more about that and being able
Getting back to me on it will be fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Mrs. Merzinger, when it comes to the whole cryptocurrency issue, to me that is something that is so amorphous. We don't know where it's going to end up. It's certainly not a currency in the sense of having stability. I want to just zero in on it, though, in that it is emerging. It's new. Last week, the CEO of Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, pleaded guilty to violating anti-money laundering requirements. Earlier this month, the founder of FTX, another crypto exchange, was found guilty of 7 counts of fraud. Last year, the committee spent considerable time debating new crypto regulations. It seems to me that our existing laws and regulations are bringing criminals to justice. I'd like to hear your opinion on that. And in an industry that is literally evolving daily, it's got a lot of peculiarities to it, I think is yet to be determined where it fits in to the total scheme. Do you think we need more regulation, or do you think there's accountability in place given the 2 instances I cited? Getting to the key question, even though we know there are issues with it, is there a possibility we could over-regulate it, especially when we brought 2 to accountability already?
No, thank you for that question. I was worried I wouldn't get a crypto question, so I'm glad that we're
there. You go.
I'm glad we're having this conversation, and I do have to give a lot of credit and accolades to our enforcement team. They were really the first movers on the Binance case. They came out with a very strong case against Binance and the founder and their chief compliance officer, and we definitely have seen justice served in that space. So I think what that means is, we are catching people who are committing fraud and who are doing bad things in these markets. Unfortunately, when you're only using your enforcement authority, you're coming in after the fact. The money has been lost, consumers have been harmed, the bad behavior has occurred. So while we are able to go after those individuals with the authorities we have. What we don't have is the ability to get ahead and be proactive and look at these markets and ensure that customers are protected. There is immense amount of interest in these markets from U.S. citizens. We can't ignore it. And you know, in working closely with our states, we need to have a federal framework to oversee the cash markets for crypto commodities.
So does that mean then you are going to use the current framework, try to enhance it, or just be kind of attentive to it?
That's a great question, and it is something we've looked into. I do believe that we probably need legislative authority to do more in this space. I don't think that right now these exchanges could register under our current regime. And yeah, I've seen a lot of great ideas out of this committee and elsewhere throughout Congress, and I think we can get to a good place where we have federal framework to properly regulate these markets.
Thank you.